operations meeting to order. First, calling for the approval of the minutes for April 8th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to discussion item for today, which is activity participation, secondary extracurricular participation. Superintendent Degner and team, please take it away.
Thanks, Director Lingo. Tonight we're happy to talk to you guys about some of our participation data in our secondary schools at middle school and high school level, and then also some of the things we try to do to inspire interest at the elementary level. Tonight, leading the presentation, we're going to have Executive Director Potacek, Lucas, that you're very well familiar with, and then also our new District Activities Director, Tunisia. So I'd like to welcome Tunisia to the table. This is probably the first time you're hearing from her in a formal manner, but happy to answer your questions as we go through the presentation or afterwards. There was one limitation we weren't able to provide, and I know Lucas and Tunisia will address this, but free and reduced price lunch for Senate students, and trying to track that data was difficult for us. Lucas will walk through some of the reasons for that and some of our steps to improve on that process moving forward. But with that, I'll go ahead and kick it off with turn it over to Lucas.
Awesome. Well, appreciate everybody being here this evening, and appreciate Tunisia being part of the team here today. Not to bury the lead, but getting ahead to the goals that we have set forth for this coming year is going to speak to some of the issues that Matt had talked about with some of the data. So the way we collected some of this data is very archaic, it being 2025. We counted on our directors and our coaches to give us a lot of the information that we're presenting today. In the future, we're going to do less hand tabulation and more counting on our school personnel to make sure students are entered appropriately. So appreciate the opportunities to be in front of you here this evening. Tunisia and I are going to kind of tag team the presentation here tonight. But really have got three objectives for tonight. The first, I don't think it's any surprise or secret to anybody here, really the importance of students being involved. The stronger they have to a connection to our building, the stronger we see all the results from our students. Next of which is really the data pieces, both from a 6 through 12 perspective, and then lastly our goals for this year, especially with Tunisia taking the lead for our activities.
The first thing is, this is nationwide. We have seen a boom in students wanting to be involved in sports specifically. Eventually I'd like to get to all activities, but sports right now is really a big boom, and that's coming across out of COVID. We now have kids that are really more interested now in getting that, the connection with others, just getting physically fit again, and I think just feeling comfortable again of being around and out and about has really saw that boom increase, and this is everywhere, and that's why the National Federation of High School Sports put that out on their website, that this is something that we should be looking at, and I'm glad that we are doing this heavy work. There's some other studies that have also been going on for decades about how important it is to be involved in things, but a few of the things that came out of it that I really wanted to touch on in this is that we really have to look at sports as helping our students that maybe are a little bit more with risk factors. It really supports them and drops that, takes out that dropout rate. Psychologically, with our students dealing with more mental health issues, sports can also support that work that we're trying to do. It's also with our attendance piece that we've been trying to work on for the past couple of years here in the district. It's going to support us getting more kids involved and back in the school building. And of course, those better fitness and health outcomes. We all need, to be better health and everything. So let's get our students started to the beginning. The last two pieces are really important. That in order for this to work, for sports to actually have these awesome benefits that are above, it has to be sustained, it has to be school-centered, it has to be high quality. And then that other piece is we have to have a large variety of things for kids to choose from. It's no longer, the top three sports that we used to say, football, basketball, right, volleyball, and now we should be including all kinds of things like our esports programs, we're looking at girls wrestling, those types of things. So getting a variety of things will also support that growth in our activities. The elementary level, I wanted to start there, even though I know this is more, it's supposed to be geared towards secondary, but I think the elementary level is doing a great job as well of starting those longtime habits of being involved in activities, from band to clubs to the School of the Wild, which I think is amazing. If my allergies weren't so crazy, I would love to be out there with them. And just even looking at our facilities upgrades of having those outdoor learning spaces. All of that is getting our elementary kids ready to be involved in other activities and be athletically inclined. So I think our elementaries are doing a great job starting us off, and we just need to carry that on into the secondary. The secondary is also picking up on some things, and we're just starting on some things, so that's good. The facilities upgrades is going to be amazing when this happens. I'm telling you, we can get all kinds of people that want to get involved into new activities with that facilities upgrades. And each building is really looking forward to having that on their campus. The strategic vision that we have, trying to keep in mind the messaging. I think our communications department is also looking at how we can message towards parents and students of what can activities do for you, how can activities support you and what you want to accomplish in your goals. And those are some projects that are on the way. Accessibility, making sure that our campuses and all of our facilities are available to all students, including those students that may be online. Some students are maybe in smaller districts or smaller schools that don't have certain activities. We want to make sure that we offer that to them as well. The school levels doing a great job with their pages and with their bound use application. That's also promoting. It's easier for parents now to get their kids signed up, easier for them to get them into camps, easier just for them to even find information on when things are happening. So that's been a good help. And the foundation, of course, is always there to support with rewards and, of course, giving that incentivizing that leadership piece that I think is really important. That I hope that part of our goals is to continue to have more leadership when it comes to activities and athletics.
Thanks for getting us started there, Tanisha, kind of the why our extracurriculars are important. In the next few slides, you're going to see data both from middle school and high school. Well, that's going to encompass a lot of athletics and fine arts. You know, we don't want to forget about the other things that occur outside of the school hours, like clubs, intramural activities, especially since we started 6th grade at the middle school last year. We want to get kids connected right away from the start of their middle school year. So while that may not be highlighted this evening, those are just as important. Again, the importance of getting kids connected to not only an activity, but connected to other students and connected to adults in the building. And that's certainly something we don't want to toss aside as we go through the presentation here tonight. And those clubs and intramurals are really organically grown. They may not exist the same in all buildings. They're based upon student interest. Students are interested in something, they can find a teacher to help support that. And we've got stipends available for our staff members that help lead those. So again, we don't want to forget about those as we go through the next few slides looking at our fine arts and our athletic participation. So without further ado, let's get into the data here. The first couple of slides are really going to look at our middle school. The slides are going to be divided both by athletics and then as we look into fine arts. And what you see here is the course of over 2 different school years of comparison from 23 to 24 and then 24 to 25. Now, even though that 23-24 was only 7th and 8th grade compared to 6th through 8th grade and 24-25, just want to put that reminder out there that those interscholastic opportunities for athletics are only available for 7th and 8th grade students. So really we're comparing apples to apples here as we look at student involvement within these activities. And as you see from the data there, you know, we've kind of been hit and miss as far as what we see from one given year to the next. Do we see either an increase or decrease in our students that are participating in those activities? This does not take it by 7th grade to 8th grade as far as that attrition rate from one grade level to the next. You know, I think we could use a lot of different speculations for why we may see increases or decreases. You know, without that data, without those surveys that we have with our students, we really don't have some of that information with us today. But again, I want to highlight those goals. If you've kind of previewed the slides for us, one of our goals is improve that attrition rate and making sure that students are involved in at least one activity. And then secondly, the way we document those. Director Lingo.
Whatever. These are unique head counts and not duplicative?
These could be duplicative.
Okay.
With students participating. A lot of what you're going to see here, and sorry, I didn't highlight it on this slide like I did with the high schools, is that these may highlight students that are involved in multiple activities.
Just any quick thought on why Northwest with the higher population is low? No thoughts? Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I could speculate. Probably wouldn't be
I guess
wise
it's hard
of
to
me
know,
speculate
right?
here
It just
tonight.
really jumps out because
Yeah.
I know they're, bigger than North Central.
Yeah. I could say that'd be the way the data was collected.
Huh?
I could use that as one possible theory, given the fact that we did not require our people to put this in Infinite Campus.
Right, so then
Um,
you're just asking coaches, how many kids do you have out for
Correct, and
cross-country?
that's not a great way to tabulate data, right? So, that's one of the things that we've highlighted.
Had
that,
2 years ago.
We need to get better at, so, absolutely. One of the things that Tanisha and I have talked through is we, especially at the high school, we have our varsity kids do a lot of end of season surveys with their families and with the students. And we can learn a lot from those surveys that students do, but that's not something we've asked our middle school PDs to do. But that's certainly something we want to look into, especially from 7th to 8th grade and then 8th grade to 9th grade. What are some of those things they see as reasons why they're involved, and how can we highlight the reasons why they're involved for them to stay involved? Next is our middle school fine arts. This is just from 24-25. This is just 7th and 8th grade. 6th graders, by Chapter 12 requirements, all 6th graders are required to participate in music. So band, choir, orchestra, that is a requirement of the students, or a non-performing arts option. So I do want to highlight that. So this is just highlighting those 7th and 8th grade student participants in our fine arts, whether it be band, choir, orchestra, show choir. We also included some of the ones that we could tabulate with this, with cheerleading, dance, and mock trial as well. So again, I wish I could tell you we had a better system that could really get you really accurate data here, especially with our middle schools. We just did not have that here. So. As we get into high school, Director Lingo, you kind of previewed this here. As we look through the data coming up here on these next slides, we're looking at total occurrences. We're not looking at unique students. So as we look through these next data sets, what we're looking for are the number of different activities that students are involved in. 3,011 in athletics and 3,092 in fine arts. While we have quite a few students in our high schools, that would not be accurate for me to say that. Nearly 90% of our students, 95% of our students participated in either athletics or fine arts. So. All right, so when we break this down by building, you can kind of see 9th through 12th grade what that participation rate looks like during the last school year. So if you've been involved in a high school, one of the things that you know is you've got a lot of interest and a lot of participation as students come into the high school. You see a lot of interest as far as with that 9th grade year, especially if they may have multiple teams at the middle school. They want to be involved into the high school as well, kind of learning, and still this is kind of an opportunity for them to explore activities that they're interested in. And then you tend to see a drop off from 9th to 10th, then 10th to 11th, and 11th to 12th. One of the things that we've really encouraged with our activities directors and our principals over the last couple of years, especially in our activities council meetings we meet on Fridays, is the reason why students should not participate is not going to do to our coaching or lack thereof. So we want to make sure that Nick has done a great job with our HR and along with Brady looking at our negotiated agreements every year. Like, what do we see as the appropriate number of coach to player ratio? So again, if I'm a student athlete and I'm one of 60 kids and I only got 1.5 coaches there, I'm not getting the attention that I really want as part of that team. So we want to make sure that the coaches and the number of coaches we have in each of our sports is not a reason why students don't want to participate. So we tell our coaches, get us the number of students that are enrolled in those activities, and we'll make sure that you've got the appropriate staff members to do it. And if you look at the job postings at the beginning of each season, you'll tend to see some jobs that are posted right when those sports seasons begin, because that's due to the influx of students that are participating in those. And we want to make sure that we have the appropriate coverage, not only for the attention of the students, but for the safety of our athletes as well. So. What we'd love to see here from 9th to 12th grade through all of our activities and all of our buildings is a steady rate, if not an increase. But again, if you've been a coach in the high school, you know that this is a huge commitment. The students are participating, they're training during not only the season, but the off season. So it is a big time commitment. Sometimes students start to realize that it may not be their passion anymore, or I'm not making the top 10 or the top 15. Some of that time isn't necessarily worth it, so it may not stay enrolled. So some of those things, that's why you tend to see those decrease in numbers from one year to the next. But again, one of the things that we're looking to highlight from our coaches in each of our buildings and our activities is, what are those reasons, what's the experience that our kids are having, that even if they're not playing, if they're not in that top 10 or 15, that they still feel part of the team. And that's really what we want, is that students feel connected, and this is one of those ways to do that. We also broke this down by building with fine arts participation. The beautiful thing about fine arts, it's not a top 5, top 10 see the playing time. So people are part of a group, whether it be the show choir ensemble, whether it be the performing arts, people on stage. We tend to see an increase, or it's kind of a steady attrition rate from one year to the next in our fine arts activities, and that's a beautiful thing, like I said, about those of us that were involved in fine arts. And we tend to see some trends are all over the place, really, on this. We can't necessarily make a pattern based on what we see from the 3 buildings here. But I do want to highlight when we talk about activities on this, we're talking about those fine arts pieces, marching band, those things that occur during the school day, but also occur as co-curricular activities. But then we tried to highlight some of the most common activities that occur in the high school outside the school day as well. So you'll see that within that data. Again, I can't make any pattern to this. There's some great things. Looking at West in this, we see a higher number of students involved at the 12th grade level than we see at the other 3. We can say it's almost the same thing for City High. The second most number of students in their grade level is at their 12th grade. So again, we want to create great experiences for our kids, but we also want to see what are some of those reasons why they may not be participating from one year to the next, and that's our goal, whether it be fine arts or athletics.
And sorry, Lucas, I never even asked this clarification. So think about all the activities or ability to offer clubs at our high school level. Some of you are familiar, I'm sure, with some things that aren't on here, right? We weren't able to include all of those pieces, right? So
so I've got, if you want to spend time with my spreadsheet on each of our activities, so one of the things we had last spring, each of our principals kind of helped direct their ADs for other athletics, and then all of their fine arts productions, we had them narrow down each and every single activity that they offer during the year. Then we had them write out the number of students involved, and then we had that demographic data as well. So while this just highlights it as a kind of a collection or a group, we've got it broken down into every category, because one of the things that we've identified with our ADs as we've gone through the FMP 2.3 is sometimes our largest, and most commonly our largest involved activities are our fine arts. And some of those, like West High will tell you, our most heavily involved activity, fine arts or athletics, is our spring musical.
Yeah.
So between the people on stage, between the people in the crew, behind the people behind the lights and the sound, it's pretty amazing when they talk through that. You think of a marching band as huge, and then they talk through our spring musical is our most heavily involved activity. That's astounding to think through.
So this does not include things that aren't really under the athletic director, like chess club, all those clubs.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's not
Okay.
student center, so that's not included.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
But do you track those numbers?
Yep.
Okay.
So our ADs, highlight the athletics, and then we typically have a point of contact for the activities piece and the
Right.
fine arts, and that's one of the other administrators on their team. One of the things that's great about Tunisia being here is she can help oversee all that, because sometimes those things get either missed or there's an oversight of one of those pieces, even though we know that's just as an important experience as our students in athletics. I dare do some, I thought I did some animations on this. I was surprising myself, I'm sorry. So when we take a look at how to break down by race and ethnicity, so again, Matt had mentioned at the very beginning, one of the things we did not include on this within the data that we're presenting is our FRL, information on free reduced lunch. That is the most confidential information that exists within a building. Sometimes administrators, it's tough for them to get that data. That's one of the things that we don't give to our coaches, we don't give to our directors. They don't have access to that information to tell us who out of their group is on free or reduced lunch. One of the things that, again, going back to the goals and previewing the goals that we have set is making sure that things are accurately displayed in Infinite Campus and students are documented within those. That makes it easier then for us at the end when we're pulling data like this. It's then used as a student, the state ID number, and then all that information is then tabulated as part of that, including free and reduced lunch. So again, that's not going to be included in our data tonight. I'm sorry that I couldn't get that to you. I know that's important data that we'd all like to see, because that's a barrier that our families have, and that's the stress the importance of these activities for our kids from all financial backgrounds with their families. So. When we take a look at our breakdown, again, this is at the high school, and this encompasses both athletics and fine arts, the participation by race and ethnicity. One of the things I wanted to highlight in each of these slides so you can kind of compare our participation compared to our district averages. these were our entire district averages from the 24-25 school year. So you'll see that as a constant here on the next few slides. This one has the district averages, and then the next one where we kind of break down by building. You'll see a breakdown by building as far as the demographic data. So you can see, do the participation rates as far as the demographics, do those kind of correspond? Is there kind of some correlation between what the building demographics are? So you can kind of see that here within this chart. You don't kind of see, we are kind of discrepant as far as we would take a look at some of our demographic groups within our buildings. You know, if we are 50%, just over 50% white from our high schools, 69.2% of our students in athletics and fine arts are white. So again, we don't see, one of the things that we want to continue to look at is what are some of those reasons why our students aren't participating, because again, those numbers on the pie chart should resemble those figures and data on the table below. All right, so then when we get to that data broken down by building, again, I wanted to highlight what those building averages are below. You'll see the demographic breakdown by all of our buildings, and then you'll see how that corresponds to the data on the chart above. This is the best way I could get you to see this, that's on one slide. So hopefully the numbers, Matt, Chase, and I worked through 3 different iterations of a graph. I think this is the best one. You know, so I stop my commentary there. So
That's Matt's favorite.
this is Matt's favorite. Chase wanted something else, and Matt answered first. So that's why we're looking at this one. So you'll see kind of where those trends are, if there's any type of alignment or discrepancy between the athletic participation, which is what we're looking at here, and the demographic data below. So give you a little bit of time to look through that rather than breezing through the next few slides and see if there's any questions, so I can take a drink of water as well. So this is our athletic participation rate. And then when we take a look at the same type of data, the bottom chart, the bottom table did not change at all. Again, that's still the building demographic enrollment. And but you'll see at the top there the chart, instead of athletics this time, it's looking at the fine arts and activities participation that we have documented from our directors and our coaches. We also want to do a breakdown by gender. So again, we're looking at high school only with this. This is both athletics and fine arts. What you see here is we're a little bit more aligned with this than what we were the demographic-wise as far as, you know, our male, female, non-binary students. We tend to see more alignment with our participation rates compared to our building data, our district data. And then I'll let Tanisha, again, we kind of let the cat out of the bag with this. I've mentioned that 5 or 6 times, but I'll let kind of Tanisha talk through what our goals are with our teams.
Yeah, I'm a data geek, if you want to call it that, but I live and die by the data. So it was really hard for us to kind of talk about this because we knew we didn't have all of the accurate data. We knew you guys needed to see something from us. But that is one of my goals, is to get that accurate data, which is why we're pushing our ADs to make sure all of our activities are in Infinite Campus with the students aligned, making sure we check on that consistently, and that will be me too as well, checking on that. That also helps us to save time and effort later when we are trying to figure out what is actually working and what is not working. And then what we can do is get those things that are successful, we can replicate that much easier and much faster than just kind of pulling straws like we are right now, just looking at some of it. The second goal is to get our participation rates up. We know when kids are in activities and involved in something, they just do better at school. So my goal, and I think the district's goal as well, is to get that up. Now 70 to 80% is, that's if you looked at the numbers from before, that's a hefty goal. But I think we can do it, especially with all the different types of things that we're offering. I think when we get better data collection and we start getting our clubs that kids are involved in, we're going to see that number grow. And I am excited to see that. We also want to promote understanding with our coaches and our sponsors and our directors on how to retain our students. How do we keep them longer, right? So that is really just trying to get them that information, those professional development situations that they may need to have, the skills that they may need to have to keep that engagement and keep those students involved all the way through their high school and middle school career. And then the last piece is kind of something I'm really excited about doing, is that's making Iowa City Community Schools a destination district, where people want to come here because they know their kid's going to be involved. They know that we're going to help their kid break through whatever barriers that they have, and they know that their kid is going to then move on and do some great things with the rest of their life because they were involved, they were connected, and they know they'll always have us behind them wherever they shall go and whatever they shall do. So that's really important to me, to make sure that coming from a different district and coming here now and being here now for the 4th year, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing like this district. I would never leave this district unless somebody forced me to, and of course I still might hang around. I want people to feel that same feeling that I started to feel when I got here and started to learn about this district. I want others to feel that way, so we start to grow even more. So.
And let's not forget that we've got amazing fine arts, we've got amazing athletics, we state championships all over the place, state finalists in fine arts, drama productions that get not only state but nationally recognized. We've got amazing things going on in our district, and the more we can see that students want to be part of those, and imagine a database that if I'm an administrator, I'm looking to see a student whose attendance is not very good, and I'm looking to see, well, what are they involved in, and I can pull up that student is involved in anything. If I've got data right at my fingertips, I can easily have those connections and those rapports and those conversations with not only the student, their families, that we see that your attendance isn't great, you can need to find a connection for you in our building. And again, that's going to be done by a lot of different things, one of which is the data, and then having the really focused conversations between our staff members, our students, and our families. So again, what we're excited about is kind of building upon all this, and as we talk through the amazing things that are going to happen based upon your support of FMP 2.3, is we've got amazing groups right now with some facilities that still require a little bit of work, and just imagine the amount of things that are going to happen when we've got some facilities that are going to resemble some of the best in our area. So appreciate that. I don't have a question slide. I forgot to do that. So we got to stare at this, which I think is really good. You can just see the for a little bit. But questions, comments from the board?
Charlie?
If you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead and take it forward.
I just want to talk about continuing participation, encouragement, and having a great orchestra program is good for having a great orchestra program. It's not necessarily good, may not necessarily be good for students that don't play their instrument as well as other students in the orchestra. However, our experience as a family was that we had a daughter who was really good at cello. We had two sons. One was not good at all. The other one was still learning. But the orchestra director encouraged that son to still participate in the orchestra. In fact, she gave him a specific place and thing to do. And so that to me, that addresses in large part difference in tryout ability as opposed to participation, which is probably the most important thing. So I'm not suggesting that doesn't occur. I think it does occur a lot. So, and I think that helps a lot with all activities where there are stars in the activity, and then there are players.
And I think that's kind of speaks to the importance of kind of the work that they're doing foundationally, like the 5th grade and then the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. If you've ever been in a building with 6th grade, the first orchestra or band concert is something.
Yep.
It is
something.
Yeah.
It's typically only about 10 minutes long,
Something.
which is 10 minutes long. But it's amazing the growth that you see, and I think the importance that we kind of see from, especially when we take a look at those fine arts pieces, is the connections that our directors have with the students, not only during that ensemble piece, but what they're doing in those lessons to get this growth from the students from one concert to the next. So students aren't, you didn't attend your lesson for the last couple of weeks, and sorry, this just isn't for you. Rather than having that type of dialogue with a kid as, we'll get you here, and we've got some beginning, even if a student chooses to join late, that doesn't mean they can't join the ensemble, but we've got great things started at the middle school that if you join late, it may not be the regular ensemble that you're part of, but it may be the lessons in the beginning piece that can help you get caught up in that individualized attention. So it's those conversations, not only after the ensemble and rehearsal, but it's during those individual lessons that are keeping those kids going, and the family members and the parents that will bear that cello practice at home, so.
I think one thing we maybe want to try to steer away from is sort of making it the norm or what needs to happen, that kids do other things outside of school. Like one young woman who I happen to know, in 10th grade in orchestra, she said to the director, do I need to take lessons at Prusel if I want to keep going? And the director said yes. So she quit. And so, you know, and you see it in softball. Everybody does JAG softball. And, you know, I mean, some of those things are just hard. Those extra things are hard for people to do. And so I think we want to be sure that coaches or whoever know that we shouldn't be suggesting that in order to be a part of a school program, you have to do those extra community things.
I'm glad you brought that up, Molly. I mean, when we take a look from one year to the next two, that's something we were competing against today that we never had to compete with before.
Yeah.
Typically, students that kind of find their place in the hierarchy, I'm just going to say, in high school, like in 9th through 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
Right.
That's being established through traveling teams that
Yep.
families are spending thousands of dollars on for uniforms, for travel. A lot of that stuff is happening like previous to when it, like 5, 6, 7 years before that happened 10, 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
the fact that our numbers are still where they are,
Yeah.
like speaks to the fact, like students want to compete, they
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to be the ones seen on the field or on the court,
Right.
but they also just want to be part of a team.
Yes, right.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the fundamental problem with high school extracurriculars and trying to be equity focused is that I walk out to Kickers on Saturday, and it's all by elementary school. I look at the field, and I know which elementary schools they are, and then you look at the classrooms, and it's an entirely different set of students that are, or it's a subset of the students from the classroom that looks nothing like the classroom itself. And I just wonder, how do we even approach the club sports that use our facilities? Do we approach them? And I mean, that's kind of what's going back in my mind, and when I look at some of these numbers by race, and I don't know what the answer is,
Yeah, I don't-
because if places are using our facilities, but then again, if they're paying them, but how do we, or do we? That's the,
Right, it's a tough thing because the community, all the club sports are good for kids. They're important. They keep them busy. They learn skills. They get better. But we don't want to have it be to the extent where the kids are not then going to participate in our program.
Because it's,
So
when we take a look at,
I was going to say one, I think, success story, and I also don't have data to support this, but I would say this is what we've heard or seen a little bit, but, you know, we didn't have junior high soccer for a long time, right? And so then we started junior high soccer, and I would say, actually, the kids we got into junior high soccer are primarily the kids that aren't playing club soccer.
Yes.
Right,
See?
there was some overlap, but we really have a large number of students that if we hadn't created that opportunity, they wouldn't be participating.
I agree.
And so, I don't know that we can crack the nut all the time about the high skill level it takes to maybe make some of our most advanced activities or advanced levels, but I think, you know, I know a part of Tunisia's passion about is continuing to diversify where those opportunities are at so that people can feel part of something. And I know that's not an answer to the question, but that's been one success story. The other thing I think about is, you know, we're a little bit more discrepant in fine arts probably than we were in athletics, and I think, you know, another success story in that was starting the school-based elementary music program, so they're actually at their school rather than having to travel where they had to for a period of time to get to a junior high or a common elementary school. And so I think it is looking and taking advantage of those barriers, but you're right. I mean, there's also some factors that, you know, I'm not sure where our impact or influence point can be, Director Lingo, because some of those things are so big and so robust, but I think ideas, you know, that either the board has or that we continue to think about are worth the consideration so that we keep those doors open for kids.
I think what I was going to mention was, you know, the public schools is the great equalizer in some of these because there are barriers that might exist for a student, you know, whether it be transportation, finances, inability to get somewhere, parents' busyness of the schedule or involvement. like that doesn't exist necessarily when they're involved in public, in our public activities. But it's also, I could say, when we talk about attrition rate from one year to the next, and I'm thinking of athletics in particular, there's a lot of kids that mature at an early age, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And you know who those kids are when you look on the field. They're like the 1.5 to 2 foot
The men.
taller. They weigh about 40 to 50 pounds more. And if we start to focus all of our attention on those students and we forget about the others that may be maturing at a little slower rate than them, and we see those students don't want to participate in 7th or 8th grade because they didn't get the attention of the coach, they didn't get the playing time, they may have matured in 9th and 10th and 11th grade, and they're losing out on the skills, the connections that are really essential and important. So it's, you know, when we talk through those.
What does the middle school athletic structure look like? I know from 2000, or I guess it'd be 1997, not even 2000. But, you know, it was back in the
Way
day where
back.
we played, Linn-Mar had 7th and 8th grade football, 7th grade football, but the Cedar Rapids schools didn't, so we'd drive down to Southeast, and there was always like, you had an A team, a B team, and then like at Linn-Mar in those days, we had 2 C teams for 7th grade. Is that and so did Iowa City because we played them.
Some things have changed, right, Mitch? That's pretty standard.
It's still pretty standard that you have,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so even the C team, it's not like everybody that's left over gets thrown on the C team, and then the top 10 players get to play, and then the other 20.
Yeah, a lot of, depending upon the numbers of students that are participating, they may split, and like the teams would be split evenly. They may have 2 different teams, and then they sort A, B, and C from there. But the structure itself that you're thinking through, that you experience, that structure for the most part is similar. What we're happy about in Iowa City is we've got really high participation numbers, where we've seen some of the schools that we traditionally competed against in the old Crandon. They can't field teams. They were either having to consolidate or combine with another building. So, you know, the ability for us to compete against them, we don't do it because we can't get our students to,
Right.
they don't have enough to field a C team, so then we can't take our C team there. So we're trying to compete against others that have very similar enrollment team size.
How does after-school transportation work for students involved in athletics or fine arts, or is it just you're like? I'm not trying to go after anybody. It's just more of a general question. Is it just you find a ride from a friend, or you hope that you have a parent pick you up, or do we have any sort of like after-school bus that could drop kids off in a zone or anything like
Might
that?
jump in here. So I think it's more of the first option you're talking about, Mitch,
Yeah.
realistically, you know, I mean, it is, you know, parent dependent on transportation. I do think one thing, and I'm trying to remember, you guys might have to help me, this came out of maybe an attendance support busing conversation when we tried to identify, you know, barriers for kids participating in activities at that time and started running some like shuttle buses for activities. And really, I think what we uncovered through that process is that wasn't the biggest barrier. It was a barrier, but it wasn't the biggest barrier that kept kids from participating. It was oftentimes they had maybe childcare responsibilities at home or other things that even though we ran that transportation, we just didn't see kids change their behavior about participating in activities because of it. It wasn't lack of awareness or the inability to provide the route, but it was really there was something else getting in the way that was another barrier that was preventing it. So I do think that's a common one. We look to try to problem solve. I know our coaches end up spending a lot of time.
I was gonna say, I think our coaches do a fair amount of trying to coordinate with kids and helping and giving rides themselves.
And we don't
With additional
necessarily
things.
recommend
Not
that.
giving rides, not that part.
We got a pet peeve about that one. We don't like that. But you're right. I mean, in reality, though, that happens, Molly. And I do think they also try to coordinate. I just know from my own kids' activities and messages and from being at the building level, you know, they are trying to send out messages and helping parents connect and carpool and do those different types of things. But yeah, there's some barriers, right, that get in kids' ways if we're being honest about their ability to participate in these. But if you do want a great time, I would recommend going to one of those junior high C-level games. That is like, that's one of the beautiful things, again, about
Oh,
public
it
schools.
is.
Seeing an opportunity like that, those are just so much fun. Right?
My daughter made a basket on the wrong end. It was fabulous. Everyone clapped.
That's it. That's like,
You made a basket, doesn't matter.
yeah.
Right, it doesn't matter which time.
Or the volleyball, that, like, it went over the net. Yep.
How are we doing on instruments at the middle school and 5th grade? And making sure that we have enough instruments for students that are interested in
Anyone
playing an
feel good
instrument.
about an answer there? I mean, I know it's one we continually review and that we've tried to outfit some for. It was a bigger conversation when we started that a couple of years ago. Adam, do you know? Just from a
Yeah, the
budget
one thing I would say,
perspective?
so we have a couple different funding sources for that. The biggest one is our PEPL life cycle budget, which sets aside an amount for musical instruments. I meet every year with the performance music coordinator and talk about instrument replacements. I'm not sure what the state of our instruments is, but I do know that I'm not being asked for more money for that purpose at this point, so.
You're not, or you are?
I'm not. So as far as I know, the budget we're allocating is sufficient.
Usually I would say that would come up through our elementary principals, and Eliza hasn't communicated that either as a concern. I don't know if that's something you guys hear or not, but I think we're okay.
I will say that the inverse trend that you noted on fine arts isn't necessarily surprising, like 316, at least where it bumped up. And I can just say from being an arts kid, that's like you trickle into being able to have major roles or trickle into being able to be on the show choir or whatever it may be.
And they did 2 musicals, what, at West in 24, 25, so, yeah, your numbers a little.
Inspire that, yeah.
The summer, I would say too, the summer youth camps that they do, I think are another thing to celebrate, and that are really, really good. Speed and agility camps and those things, that's where you build up excitement amongst families and other kids about seeing some of those coaches and athletes that are in middle school and high school working with the young kids, and I think that's another way to keep them in the system and maybe not as attracted to clubs, and do some of those things early so there's momentum and excitement about being a little hawk or a large or a coach.
You know what kind of scholarships we offer for that, or I'm not trying to, because the summer camps usually cost money, right?
Yeah.
So
The
do we
ones we-
offer any
yeah.
That's
sort of-
probably another one that I think we could, like, just have a better process probably too. I would say just anecdotally and informally, what our coaches and sponsors are great about doing is, you know, always having a statement of need in there. You know, of course, is dependent upon somebody asking, right? So there's maybe a better way, of course, you know, just like we talked about linking the data, we might get a better assessment of that and be able to offer that rather than, you know, require a request. But I know a lot of our coaches and sponsors, you know, have the ability to problem solve with the booster club, or the district tries to support those efforts where families can't pay. So we don't want that to be a limiter. But I will say, I think if we're being honest with ourselves, there's also certain programs that happen at our high schools that it's almost a non-starter for kids because they know there's some expense there, right? And I think about being a cheer and dance dad, right? And there's just some of those things that if kids aren't willing to come and ask, they might just not even think it's an option. You know, there's others that do ask and they make it work. But sometimes I'm not sure that's always made available or the great awareness kids. Tunisia and I have actually talked about that one before, just about how do we let kids know that's not a barrier so they will still participate.
Who was there was a student at West, was it last year or the year before, that coordinated with the foundation to help out with
Is that cheer,
sort of
Jane?
thing? To fill in the gaps for those students, do you remember that?
I know, I'm trying to remember the example. I was thinking maybe it was cheerleading. But
I think it was
that doesn't-
all activities.
Oh, that
we
they were
should
doing
have-
some for all
Laura,
activities, that's right.
We should have Laura.
Yeah, Laura was
Yeah.
working on that, yep.
Yeah.
So I'd say the cool thing about asking for this Director Lingo was, I mean, it was kind of ripe time with Tunisia starting her role and an ability for us to kind of do an analysis here and also start to look at, hey, where can we make some system improvements? And I always think that's part of our role as a district team, that our buildings are trying to problem solve a lot of things on their own. And we have, like Lucas has mentioned a couple times, great directors, great coaches. But where can we step in and, you know, hopefully continue to try to provide some support and allow them to inspire interest based on the success of those.
I mean, I guess this would be my final question when I look at it. Are there any sort of courses that may, like different courses in the music department or in the fine arts that could bring students in?
One of the things, I mean.
Like, if we're just celebrating classical music styles within vocal departments or something like that, and we're not acknowledging doing other.
That's a new.
Yeah, rock band, fine with.
Yeah, Hear My Voice.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
And there's a music production one that is at West.
Digital music,
Digital
which
very
is
popular.
blowing up huge,
Yes.
especially at West, and then it's kind of expanding into the other buildings where there's been so much interest in that. And the teacher, I think, what is it, the band or choir teacher?
Choir.
Over at
Choir,
West.
yeah. I mean, we have to, still has his choir sections to teach, but he's fine in those sections with blowing up for digital music, so, yeah. Because then you look at all genres of music when you look
Yeah.
at that, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Here's my agenda. So we'll move on to agenda setting. Are there any topics that come to mind for anyone
Not offhand.
at the moment?
No.
We had kind of tentatively scheduled a climate action update. That's something we had
Okay.
Yeah.
said we'd bring back to the board annually, and I think we did it in October last year, so we just continue that cycle if that's okay, Director.
Yeah.
That would be good.
It's fine with me.
What's the date of that meeting, Kim?
It would be
So that will be
October.
First meeting.
first
Yeah.
meeting. So the 7th
14th.
or 14th? Oh, wow, we go for a while. 14th. So setting for the 14th, the climate action at 5 PM, full hour, I assume.
Climate action, yeah, we probably can do it in 5:30 because it's an update. I don't
Okay.
think we have a lot of new initiatives, but it's more of an update of where we've been. So
Got
it's
it.
Kurt's first time.
You better give him a full hour.
4:30.
Thanks, Lucas.
Expect the slides 2 weeks in advance, so I can annotate them and send them back. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye. Those not in favor? Okay, adjourned.